Hey guys, welcome back to another Flatware Friday. Flatware Friday is just a casual chat about all different types of topics of flatware. It's been a little while since I've done a more specific themed Flatware Friday. The last few I think have just been kind of a show and tell or just a casual chat about listing flatware and things like that and selling it, finding it and selling it. So I'm hoping to get back to some of those themed topics again. In the meantime, if you're new to my channel, if you look at, I should have a playlist for Flatware Fridays and you can go back, and we talked about all sorts of things like souvenir spoons, and we talked about children's flatware, and we talked about different things like that, but always what's worth picking up to resell. And you know, we always talk about what's worth it to me might not be worth it to you, so you kind of just have to do your own research in these things as well. So today what I thought I would do is address one of the I think the last Flatware Friday we talked about making October a flatware challenge where we were going to try to, my personal flatware challenge was to prioritize flatware. So every time I had a listing session, I would make sure that I would list some flatware during that session. And it wasn't like a marathon, I'm going to try to get 100 flatware listings on or anything like that. But we decided to make it a design your own flatware challenge. So if that's how you guys wanted to do it, that's what you did. Some people just wanted to attack a backlog that they had, a box of flatware or something like that. So I've showed you in the past my crazy flatware backlog and storage system. So we don't need to talk about that again. But anyway, as you guys know from my other recent videos, my flatware challenge was like non-existent. October was a super hard month. So we're gonna start over. Like, what else can you do? We're gonna try again for November. So November is just going to be a fresh start. Now, hopefully I'll be feeling better, a little bit better this month. I'll get a little bit more listing done than I did last month. But I was excited to start off the month with a good flatware find. Now, like I said, I have a backlog, but sometimes you just need one of those good, exciting finds to kind of kickstart the momentum again, right? So I had told you we had gone on vacation about a month ago, a little over a month ago, and I didn't buy any flatware on that trip. And I just wasn't finding anything super special. But this past weekend, we were out of town. We were down in Missoula. It's a couple hours away for a separate event. And so they had opened 2 new thrift stores down there. And so I got a chance to go to them. And I went into one and they had flatware. It was priced at $4 for $1. So I have some footage here. And right away I saw the flatware that you could see in the thumbnail. And I could see several pieces of this particular flatware kind of scattered throughout the flatware bin. So I was like, huh. And I always like it when flatware looks kind of substantial. So I flipped it over. And it is Oneida. It's marked Oneida, USA. So I was like, okay, but in general, I love Oneida. But there were so many pieces. I was like, you know what? Let me figure out what the pattern is, because then that will help me determine, do I just pick up the spoons? Do I just pick up the forks or something like that? Or is it worth getting like all of it? So I went into replacements.com on my phone. We've talked about this before. And in replacements.com, they have a search feature, an image search feature. And so I pretty quickly, I think it took me actually 2 tries, because I was trying to find a good space on the little shelf there to like take a picture. And other people were digging around me and everything. So I took my picture and got the identification that it's called obelisk. So kind of like obelisk, right? It's kind of got that, you know, structural type style, but it's obelisk. And right away I could see some high prices in replacements. We'll look at it in a minute. But that was enough for me to just go, okay, I didn't check eBay, I didn't check anything. I said, I am just gonna grab what I can find of this, right? So I started collecting it. And in the meantime, I'll just share, I did find a few pieces of canoe muffin. This is Echo Eterna. kind of shaped like a canoe. The pattern is called Canoe Muffin, like nobody knows why, but it is what it is, okay? So I think there was like 3 pieces of that. There's a twin star serving piece, so I got that. Here's the other Canoe Muffin spoon. So very exciting. I thought what I would do today, so I've got this flatware. I'm not even sure how many pieces of each thing I have, like how many dinner forks, how many salad forks. I saw a couple serving pieces in there somewhere, but I didn't, you know, I haven't counted, I haven't done anything like that. So that'll come eventually. But what I thought I would do is we would go over to the computer. I'm gonna figure out how I'm going to list this, and we can look at the computer and kind of see the like my thought process of as I try to figure out how I'm going to put this on eBay. Now there's different options. We've talked about this in other videos as well. How you divide up or how you list your flatware. There's so many different ways, and there's really not one right way. Okay, so it depends on you. It depends on how much work you want to do. It depends on like looking at how well they're selling in different ways. Recently I had some Oneida flatware and I looked it up and I was like, oh, it's not that exciting. It was from my stash. I had bought it like years ago and it was like, it's not so exciting. So I decided to just put it all in one big lot. It was like vintage from the 90s, but not one of the really sought after ones. And I listed it for $75 and somebody bought the whole lot on Etsy like the other day. So that worked for me, right? And I didn't have to sit there and make 10 listings or do all that stuff. But other patterns, you're gonna make way more money if you break them up. So it takes a little bit of like kind of getting a feel for it. And then usually you just can't go wrong, like no matter how you choose to do it. So what I could do is I could take this whole thing and I could make a variation listing. And a variation listing is one of those where people can drop down into the menu and just buy the piece they want and the number of pieces they want. I don't do a ton of variation listings because I like to cross post over to Etsy and you can't cross post those. Now these, I'm not quite sure the age, I'd have to look at them. I don't know how much cross posting I'll be doing. So I'm holding that as an option. These might just only be on eBay, so that might be fine. The other option I could do is I could divide it up into like 4 dinner forks, 4 salad forks, 4 whatever, right? We'll see how they sell that way. The other option is to do one listing, like I could just do a listing for 1 dinner fork, quantity 6 or however many I have. And I could do that for each piece. Sometimes that's kind of simple. Oh, I just remembered, I found this dance knife while I was digging around in there too. It's kind of cool looking. So anyway, we're going to, oh look, what I bought by accident. That's what happens when you're grabbing too fast. That is not Oneida. That's hilarious. Okay. So, well, let's go over to the computer. Let's take a look at replacements. Let's look at their prices, and then let's look over at eBay at their prices and how most things have been listed, okay? Okay, so here we are at replacements.com, Replacements Limited. And this is what I was talking about, the image search right here. So they don't necessarily have an app that I know of, but when I was talking about how I have it on my phone, it's because I just made a shortcut. Like I went to, you might have to look up how to do this. I don't know that I can explain it, but basically you go to your website and then you just add that page as a shortcut. And so I can go to it right from my like home screen on my phone. It goes straight to replacements. So then I just click the little camera and it lets you either take a picture or upload a picture. And so it works really good. But we know the name of what we're doing. So I'm just going to put in the name right there and we're going to search it. And here it is. Now this says it's from 1997. So yes, I definitely could cross post it over to Etsy. and it says it's an heirloom. Mine doesn't have heirloom. Oneida heirloom generally has a cube mark on it, but these do not. They just say USA. So that's interesting. I'll have to see if there's any others listed on there that that have or don't have the little cube mark on there. So just out of curiosity, I won't probably put it if I don't have the mark on mine. Probably won't matter. People are just going to search Oneida and obelisk. Okay, so fork replacements is selling it for $120. Now, that is not necessarily eBay prices. As we know, replacements.com is not, that's not our pricing guide unless we want to just take a percentage of what they generally list theirs for. They have a teaspoons for $50. The place or oval spoon is $30. Then there's all these specialty like serving pieces. But as you can see, there's some discounted knives. Knives and salad forks are out of stock on replacements. So that's interesting, and that's something to keep in mind. Okay, so that's just our starting point. That's just kind of where we get an idea of how sought after something is. Okay, and then what I thought was interesting, if you go to Oneida, the whole category, I went to name begins with O, and it sorts by most popular. And so it's interesting that obelisk is the third most popular that starts with O in Oneida. I didn't go to like the whole like thing and see how popular it is in all of Oneida's catalog. And this is how popular it is on replacements.com, not in general. But it sometimes gives you an idea of what people are looking for if you're looking at that, searching by what's most popular. So, for example, I'm just going off on tangents because today's Flatware Friday and it's like a chat, right? If we just went to Oneida Silver in general and we looked at most popular, chatelaine, Brahms, Royal Flute, they may not be the most expensive Oneida, but they will most likely be the flatware that sells pretty quickly. So that's just a quick little side thing. So let's go over to eBay and let's look up. I should have some, like a save, not a save search, but a recent history search there. As you can see, there's only 31 results for Oneida, and they switched it to obelisk. I can change this and it doesn't change much, right? So here we go. 31 results for Oneida obelisk. So right away we see, I've noticed more and more people are using variation listings to sell their flatware. So I have to keep that in mind. This is a big flatware seller on eBay, Choice Flatware. And so if you look through what they have available currently, they have a lot of serving pieces. This is their dinner fork is the most popular. Look what they're asking for their dinner fork, $104. So theirs must be in really good condition, probably close to new. So they're actually pretty close to replacement's price. And it's just, there's not really a way to see how many of those have sold. They still have dinner knives, iced teaspoons, salad forks. They're asking $75 for the salad fork, and mostly serving spoons. So some of the other little serving pieces are sold out. So that's good to know. Now, if we go, oh, nope, it opened a new one. That's what happened. Okay, so then we have another Smart Choice. I think I looked, let's see. Okay, yes, so they basically are sold out of everything except the oval soup spoon. So all the other pieces seem to be fairly popular. Okay, I think we're on that one. So then we have a few people who they listed a salad fork for $50, a knife by itself. All right, so let's look at solds. This is what's available. So not really a lot available. A lot of the variation listings, like we said, and then mostly here's like one teaspoon, 3 knives, an oval. So a lot of spoons are left is telling me that forks are where it's at in this. A lot of knives and spoons are still listed. That happens sometimes. You think the teaspoons are going to be hot, and then for whatever reason they're not. Okay, this is a Obelisk dinner fork, sold for $70, but it was brand new. 2 oval soup spoons, $26.95. Cocktail fork, serving fork, mix set, 4 pieces, sold for $80. Now there's only 9 results in solds. And a lot of times that has to do with the fact that the solds from variation listings are not showing up in this, well, maybe this one, because it's so a lot of them were sold out. I don't know. Nope, that's a variation listing, and that shows some solds. Okay, I don't know. But what I did is I then was thinking it would be better to go over to the research tab. So let's get 3 years worth of data to look at. Because so far we're not getting a clear picture. Like, what was interesting is in solds, you don't see a lot of like 4 dinner forks or 3 teaspoons or things like that. It was like the variation listings and like single pieces. So that's interesting. So look at our range. We have the last 3 years, average sold price is $41, from $6 up to $800. So this gives us a better picture. I like the research tab. It gives us a better picture of some of those variation listings and how they did. So for example, that one we were looking at, their average sold price was $41. Let's see. They sold a total of 62 pieces out of that variation listing, which we could see on the listing. But their total sales for that one listing is $2,592, which is really cool. And they recently, October 9th, sold something out of that variation listing. Okay, here's another variation listing. They sold 46 pieces for almost $1,000. Here's another one, 68 pieces for $2,000. So as you can see, like, I doubt that if you took 68 pieces of this pattern flatware and listed it for $2,000 that you would get a buyer, but dividing it up definitely can add up to more money. Okay, so let's see, those are sugar spoons, more variation listings. So it looks like there's some variation listings that actually sold out, so we don't see them anymore in the actives. Okay, you can get an idea. Here's a your choice. This one is interesting. Oneida 1 dinner fork, okay, $44.97 for the 1 fork plus shipping. They sold 9 of them for $404. Okay, so that's kind of what I was thinking of doing. The more valuable the flatware, the smaller the lots I make. Let me explain for a second. Yeah, so what I was saying is I feel like if someone is going to pay like $45 or $50 for a salad fork or for a dinner fork, like, I would maybe list 2 at the most. The more expensive they are, sometimes people need a bit of time to like save up for it, if that makes sense. Like, they may not be able to replace all their forks at once, but like, oh, I'll buy 2 forks, for this occasion because it's $100, and then in a month or so I'll buy a couple more. I've had people shop like that in my store, and so you can see them as repeat buyers coming back to get more. And anyway, I was just thinking about that because it's more valuable, I'm going to list them one at a time, or I'm going to go ahead and do the variation listing. I don't know what I feel like doing. The other problem is that sometimes, not problem, but for me, like, just looking at some of the information we looked at already, I think the knives are going to be slower sellers, kind of like they usually are. I think maybe the larger spoons are going to be a little bit harder to sell. So I'm not sure, like when I get a variation listing and all the forks sell out, then all of a sudden you're left with like just, you know, people get excited. They like come and look in your variation listing and all you have left are the pieces that people don't want as much. You know what I mean? So it just seems simpler to me to just kind of have a fork listing. And if that sells out, then people kind of lost out on that. And then over time, people can buy the other pieces that they need. I might even do, I don't even know how many knives I have, but I might even do 4 knives together and do the dinner fork separately. You see what I'm saying? So anyway, this is my thought process. I don't know that we need to go back to the computer to look at any more. You can kind of play around with it with any of the flatware that you guys have too, but don't forget that product research tab. It kind of will help give you a clearer idea of how well those variation listings are doing. And then you could see maybe in certain pieces, like if someone did list something individually, how well did that do? I will slip a little bit more information in here. So what I ended up doing is I went back over to the research tab and I did Oneida obelisk and then I added teaspoon. And so that's really a good thing to do too, because some of those variation listings, you end up getting their variation and you get what the average sold price is for teaspoons within the variation listing. For example, that expensive variation listing that we saw, the really good stuff, their average selling price for a teaspoon was $25 and they sold 12 of them for like $300. So I just did my count of my stuff and I have like 8 dinner forks and I have about 9 salad forks, which is exciting. I have like 14 teaspoons or something like that. And I think there's 9 larger spoons and I didn't even count these, probably about the same dinner knives. So I'm gonna do some math. I'll probably put it in my title, but I'm thinking there's quite a bit of money. And my total spend was $15 because I ended up getting 60 pieces, even including this little wonky thing. And I got 60 pieces. I paid $15 for this flatware, and so I'm super excited. I'm gonna go list some flatware. Okay, so I hope you guys are doing good. I hope you guys did good with your flatware challenge in October. I hope you did better than me. I know some of you really went at it and caught up with your backlog and things like that. So that's awesome. Flatware can be sold at any time. And like it sells year round. It does do better this time of year. So it's not too late. That's what I keep telling myself because what else can I do, right? So leave me a comment down below. How would you list this flatware? How was your flatware challenge? Are you going to keep it going for November? Do you find flatware in your thrift stores? Any comment that you want to leave down below, just letting us know about are you new to flatware, all that kind of stuff. Anyway, I will talk to you guys later. Have a good rest of your Friday.